Hi everyone, it's finally springtime, so here are some tricks to keeping your plants thriving during this season. First off, it is repot season, so any plants that you have that need to be repotted, now is the perfect time to do that. I will say though, for me personally, I've noticed that plants that stay in their pots for longer actually grow faster. So if you ask me, repotting your plant as soon as it gets root bound is not the smartest idea. But I will say for a plant like this Monstera subtropicana, a repot would absolutely be necessary. Definitely just realized how terrible of a procrastinator I am. Additionally, it's a really good idea to start fertilizing your houseplants. I've said it before and I'll say it again, I do prefer the natural types of fertilizers such as worm castings. Worm castings are brilliant at producing root growth. Also, worm castings can never be overused, therefore you can never chemically burn the roots. One last thing, I know that there are other people out there than me that need to hear this right now. Plant your propagations! Now is the perfect time. For the most part, when a root's length passes over an inch, it is perfectly capable of living in soil, or perlite, pumice, leca, etc. And if you don't, you will most likely end up with something like this where the growth will be stunted. But you can always fix it, so you're fine. So yeah, you guys, let me know if that helped. Also, let me know if you want a part 2. Have a great day.
White leaves on variegated plants can look so beautiful, but they can also be trouble, so let's talk about it. Plants need chlorophyll in order to produce energy from sunlight, and chlorophyll is green. So a plant that has white variegation is actually mutated, and the less green it has, the less energy it can produce. Sometimes a white variegated plant can sustain all white leaves for quite some time, but the leaves are not producing any energy for the plant, and it's entirely relying on these little green pieces here. So at the slightest disturbance, like the wrong humidity levels, under or overwatering, or the wrong amount of sunlight, will kill these white leaves. They'll just turn brown and shrivel. There are some exceptions to this. This Monstera adansanii archipelago ghost starts off white and then fades to green. And also this Alocasia frydek actually has a minty color that it fades to, so that the leaves won't die.
Hi friends, welcome back to Fun with Leca. I'm going to be moving my Alocasia Maharani from soil to leca. I've had this leca soaking for 3 days, but we're gonna set her aside and go to town cleaning these roots. This is the soil she came in. She is with child. This leaf was coming out when I got it, and then I got this big leaf and now put out this tiny one, so I have a suspicion. Yes, there's a thick chunk of peat moss or cocoa core, whatever, in the center. I just prefer to let my roots breathe. Now it looks like we've got most of the dirt off, but we can't stop here. With the way that leca stays so evenly moist, any of the soil that stays on the roots will be wet all the time and can lead to rot or fungus. After a very long time of running her under the water and just massaging the soil off, this is what we're at. I could be even more thorough because there are little bits of soil, but like I should to do today. This will be her water reservoir. I got this from Target for only $8 and it does have a little plug. I'll put a few in there and then plop her in and then fill her up. If you're newer to leca, I do recommend starting with something like a philodendron. This is not a nutrient video. These are the ones that I use, but they're in these. I'm filling this with water about 1/3 of the way, and I'm adding like 2 drops of each of the nutrients and stirring in between. And now my Maharani is in leca. She might droop a little bit over the next couple of days, but she'll perk back up. Have a good day.
Quick tips on how to grow a long and healthy string of pearls. People often forget this plant is a succulent and should be treated as such. They love the sun and warm temperatures, but direct sunlight could potentially cause harm. I keep mine on a windowsill next to a larger pot to block the sun. Enjoy.
Welcome to Reagan's method for dealing with yellow leaves. It is unfortunately true that this will never go back to being green. So what do? Leave it or pull it off? Depends what your goals are. If you are an aesthetics girly, you want your plant to look good, just pop it off. You want to pull it from basically as close to the base as you possibly can. So like right. But if you're more interested in that plant's health, first going to want to rule out a pest or fungal issue, because if you have either of those things, you want to get the leaf off there as soon as possible. But otherwise, actually you want to leave it because the plant is pulling nutrients from the leaf back to the plant. That's what changes the color. So while it's not really a big deal either way, if you leave the leaf on, it might be a little beneficial for your plant.
If you've also been extremely depressed for 2 months and haven't been able to take care of your plants, welcome! Here is Lucy's guide on reviving your plant collection after not taking care of them for 2 whole months. Step 1. Assess the damage. This step can vary in length and emotional damage depending on how severe the neglect was. Some things you will not be able to save because of the damage that was done. On the bright side though, you can salvage the container it was in. It will make you feel marginally better about yourself. Even so, there may be instances where this simply is not worth it. Some plants are deceptive. You may think that because it's green, it's still alive. It's not. Some plants are less deceptive than others. Am I crazy? sometimes they can be deceptive in reverse. If you grow your plants in leca, this is a really great time to reuse it. Shout out to the first plant I ever bought. Shout out to my black velvet alocasia. It's the first video that I went viral for. Follow for part 2. I'll talk about how to actually revive your plant. Welcome to part 2 in the series where I teach you how to take care of your plant collection after neglecting them for over 2 months. Really quickly, I just wanted to say thank you so much for the overwhelming amount of love and support on the last video. I am starting to think that the Venn diagram of people that love plants and that are depressed is just a circle. The number one thing would be to start watering your plants more often, but that's literally why we're here, so I don't think that's very helpful advice. Create a system for yourself where you don't need to water your plants so often. I have a whole video on these self-watering planters, and they let me comfortably go 2 to 3 weeks without watering my plants at all. The second piece of general advice, obviously pick off all of the dead leaves, but also pick off all of the leaves that are yellow. These leaves aren't doing much for the plant at this point. And in reality, the plant is actually expending valuable resources to support a leaf that's eventually gonna die anyways. If it's yellow like this, there's enough green that it'll still support the plant, but that yellow will never fade. Third tip, hold off on fertilizing or anything like that. It can be a little too much too fast. But especially coming out of winter, crank up the humidity. Tropical plants love it, but succulents are not a tropical plant. Don't do it for them. I have more specific things I'm doing to certain plants depending on what I'm trying to achieve. Follow along if you're interested in any of them.
After this, you're never gonna have to worry about what direction your window's facing ever again. I don't think many of us moved into where we live now because it was accommodating to houseplants. And unfortunately, the majority of us probably who have houseplants aren't blessed with beautiful floor-to-ceiling windows that let in that natural light that plants would love. Some of us live in a dungeon, in a concrete block dungeon. The next thing you're gonna do is go unscrew all of your light bulbs and then replace them with grow lights. My personal favorite grow lights are $4 at Walmart. You get a weird lamp. This one's got elephants on it. Literally just put a grow bulb in there. And then everywhere in your house is a good spot for a plant. Everywhere.
Ha, y'all know what it is. Let's transplant from soil to leca like African and Indian transplants in the Ukraine are treated like animals in the midst of white folks' war. Prepare the leca by soaking and rinsing it in 30-minute increments and boil until the water runs clear to remove dust. Like it's clear that Europe has always been racist and its white on white crime only exacerbates it. All products are linked in my bio. Prepare the plant by removing all soil from the roots and rinse them with water. Soak the roots in 1 part water and 1 part hydrogen peroxide for no more than 10 minutes or the roots might burn. Like even with their country burning, racist white folks will always put their skin color over humanity. Grab a pot with holes in it, a catch pot with no holes, and the clean leca balls. Mark the catch pot to know how much water to add, only to a third of the pot. Mix Super Thrive plant vitamins with water to help the roots transition from soil to water roots. Shake it well. Add the leca to the pot up until the marked line. Place the plant on top of the leca and fill until the roots are covered and secured. Like European history books cover up the fact that millions of African and Indian people fought for European countries in World Wars I and II only to get little recognition. Water with the Super Thrive until it's only touching the bottom of the roots. Place it in a bright spot for a week. It may start to decline at first due to all of the soil roots dying off. Remove the dead roots. Like black and brown folks' contributions to pointless white wars will always be removed from their history lessons so they can continue to treat us like 3/4 of humans. Underneath the dead roots, white color roots will start to grow. Add a hydroponic nutrient system. This Flora series is also linked in my bio. Add 1 teaspoon of Flora Micro first. Rinse the measurement spoon, then repeat with the other 2. Shake it up well and let it sit for 20 to 30 minutes. Repot the plant into leca using the same method as before in honey. 7 months later, this monstera at Asana is thriving and trailing beautifully because she knows that another European war should not be prioritized over wars that's been going on for years in black and brown countries with no solutions. She also knows that it's equally important to hold racism accountable while also praying for all countries suffering from war because prioritizing white bodies uphold the racism we're fighting to dismantle. Like and follow for more.
If the leaves on your plant are turning yellow, it could be one of 4 things. Here's what to look out for and how to prevent it. If you have yellow leaves and they're curling inward or getting crisp, then your soil is too dry. The solution here is just to water your plant more often. If you have yellow leaves and they're fading to green or bright yellow, then you're over-watering your plant. The solution here is just to water less or let it dry out between waterings. If you have irregular yellowing and sometimes leaf deformities, then you have a pest. The solution is to get a fertilizer that's natural and that gets rid of the pest without hurting your plant. If the whole plant is yellowing and it may or may not be dropping leaves, then it's likely a temperature thing. It could be too hot or it could be too cold. The solution here is to relocate your plant to a setting in which it thrives.
So this is my spider plant, and when the spider plant is very healthy, it shoots out little spider plants. And these little spider plants grow roots out of the nodes at the bottom. Sometimes these break off and they start growing on their own. Here's one that broke off, and I didn't notice that it had started growing in the crack of my deck.
The perfect time to repot your orchid is when the blooms have fallen off. We're going to remove the old spikes here, the old stems, but I like to repot these about every 2 years. It's not so important that they go up in pot size, but they do need a medium refresh. Now, when we're removing our old roots, any of the ones that are nice and firm, that's good. If they are mushy or papery thin, we let them go. I always sanitize my pruners with a little hydrogen peroxide or rubbing alcohol, and then we're removing all of the dead roots. It's a good time to clean things up. I kind of think of it as a spa day for the orchid. Once everything is nice and cleaned up, we're going to move on to the repotting. I'm using orchid bark here, but again, you could use sphagnum moss, leca, full water culture. There are tons of ways to successfully grow an orchid. You'll see me tapping on the sides of the pot here. This is just to get the orchid bark to settle in between all of the roots. We want to make sure that bark is contacting all of our roots here. And there you have it, a quick 5-minute repot.